So my paint booth is pretty dark, and in a lot of ways I don't really get to see the car until I back it up, and this thing looks awesome. I love this color. So I don't really know what this video is going to entail, but we're just going to start putting stuff back together and kind of see where we get. We got a lot of parts to put back on. Let's do it. All right, so I guess what I'm going to do is just pick a spot on the car and start working my way back around, putting on everything we took off to paint it. It's a lot of pieces. Let's go. That is sad. The good thing about being able to do paint work yourself is that you can fix it when you mess it up, which I just did. It looks like the paint's still a little bit soft, which is a bummer, but I'll touch that up for now. Once I get everything settled, like everything is mounted and I've driven it a little while, that's when I come back and do all my like actual fixes. But this kind of stuff is inevitable when you're building cars, so let's get these things mounted for real. All right, so I'm attaching these fenders with rivnuts. Now, rivnuts are basically a metal insert that lets you put threads into sheet metal. Now, there's another way to do this with well nuts, which is a rubber nut. Does basically the same thing, but it's less permanent, and that's why I don't use them. I used them on the Audi, and I hated them. I hated everything about them. So they're real easy to put in the first time, but they fall out when you pull the fenders off. Sometimes they fall out anyway, just by themselves. It was just a really bad experience for me. I used rivnuts on the MR2, and while they're a little bit more difficult to deal with in terms of getting them installed, they're way easier to maintain. They don't go anywhere. So we're gonna be using those on the Corolla as well. Now I just made some scratches in my paint, which kind of sucks. So these will probably come off again so I can fix that. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and move on and get our rear fenders installed. The front ones we're still waiting on. I got some different front fenders, waiting on those to come in the mail. So we're gonna go ahead and do the rears and maybe try to solve the alignment issue with the doors. So the way you get your drill bit size, there's a chart online, but this I like better, is take a set of calipers and measure your riv nut. This is 6.77 millimeters or something close to that. This one is 6.8 on my drill bit, so I think that's going to be close enough. Maybe it's not. I don't know. We'll find out. But I think it's going to be just fine. So what we're going to do is drill our holes where the sheet metal screws already were, and then use our special riv nut tool to put these in, and then we should be able to mount our fenders. Haven't done this in a while, so hopefully it goes well. Also, if you're working on cars or anything that you're building and you don't have a set of calipers yet, get some. I waited way too long, and I use them almost every day. Let's go. And the downside to using riv nuts is occasionally they spin, and when they spin, I don't know how to fix it. So this one's spun. We're gonna run a nut and bolt combo through it. Hopefully we can make it work. I also cut these down so they wouldn't get in the way of like closing the door because they were too long. So I just cut them down and sanded them. Now they're pretty decent. Some days just aren't good. So today's one of those days. I keep scratching the paint up, breaking the brackets I made. Nothing's wanting to work. So I'm just gonna stop and breathe.
Hey, I'm gonna go. What's your thing?
I'm gonna go look at your cake. We're gonna go eat some cake because it's his birthday. And I'm just gonna come back to this tomorrow. It's not going good today. So hopefully tomorrow we will have more luck. It's a new day. And I've been working. Gummies. One sec, I'll show you what I made. So I spent the past like few hours making brackets. None of them worked. There's a reason people don't really build 4-door flares, and it's because they're hard to build, especially if they're not like designed for it, like universal type stuff. So this is the one that was on there. You can see I put another one on here. I had an extra because I'm using different flares for the front. So I had a little bit too much tension on the thing, and that's what was causing it to move around and need to be held very tightly. So I'm trying to do it again, and I put a different flare on there, put a lot less tension on it, and I'm hoping that when I cut it, it'll not like pop so far away from itself, if that makes sense, and I won't have to hold it so tightly. I think what I'm gonna end up doing is just running a screw in right here, running a screw in right there, and calling it done. I hope that's what I'm doing. I have totally scratched the door, which is a little bit frustrating. It's a lot of it frustrating, but I'll fix that. I'll probably touch it up, and then I think I've said this already. I think I said this yesterday, but I'll probably end up having to repaint this door. It is what it is. What I'm gonna do next is make this cut and see what happens to this fender. Okay, that is better. All right, I think I figured it out. I've got these obviously mounted now with these 2 bolts right next to the door opening, which I think is smart. That's gonna keep them really sturdy. This is taking so much brain power. I'm just tired. Tired of working on this. But anyway, this fender, or this back part of the fender kind of is pushed down. This one's not really going anywhere. I mean, it is steady. I mean, it's steady. It's sturdy. If you look, I can open and close the door with that. I need to tighten this down a little bit. But overall, really good. I tried getting this one like in the right spot and then tightening these screws down. That didn't do it. We've got to get this pushed out. So what I'm gonna do is I've got this piece of bent metal. My lens is doing something really weird. It may be giving up. Built cameras live a hard life. But anyway, I've got this piece of bent metal, and what I'm thinking about doing is putting it on the inside of this fender and pushing the fender to where I want it. Like that, or something. And then screwing this in, and it just kind of holding the fender out in the back. New plan, I've got a long piece of metal and I'm pushing it up into the fender and using that to push the fender out to the shape that I want. I think it's actually gonna work. I'm not sure if this is gonna work long term, so I'm gonna use a self-tapper to hold it in place. This is the closest thing I've found to a solution, rather than basically rebuilding the fender, which I just don't wanna do. I did that with the Audi and it was just a huge mistake. Cost tons of time and the result wasn't worth it. It wasn't great. There we go. Yes! Yeah! Woo! That was a frustrating experience. Man, that was a frustrating experience. That is awesome. All right, so now our gap is really good. Fenders are very sturdy. So you can see this piece of metal right here is just under tension, basically, bent down into the fender, and that pushes the bottom of the fender down here. It's sitting inside of this groove, pushes that out, and that helps the back fender hold its shape. Look rough. It's been a long one. This is a super simple solution, but most of the time simple solutions take the most amount of time. But that works. So we've got to clean this edge up a little bit. I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna go do the other side and get it functional, and then we're gonna take a little break, I think. Figure out how we're gonna fix all the paint that I messed up. think with my knowledge of this spring and how it works, I don't even have to put a mount here. I went ahead and put a mount right here at the edge of the door to give the door some strength. And what's gonna happen next, I'll just bend this up just a little bit, stick it inside the fender. Do I even need to do that? This one, I don't think I'm gonna need to spring load like the other one. I think if I do, it's actually gonna push it out too far. If anything, I need to spring load the door a little bit. Dude, I think we figured something out. This one was in a little bit too much, made a quick metal spring. Now, will the spring stay in? I'm not really sure. I mean, seems like it wants to. Yeah, that's cool. Now what's weird is I had to do the opposite on this one than this one. I do think I'm going to throw a screw in here though, just because you see I've got a little bit of movement there and I don't really like it. This has become quite frustrating. So I tried welding that in, but that kind of ruined the threads. So what I did is just drilled that out, and I'm just gonna use it. I found out I can get inside of there with a nut, so I'll just use a nut and bolt to hold this thing on. My riv nut gun thingy is broken. That's what caused this whole issue. So yeah, this thing's whooping my butt today. I'm gonna throw this back piece back on, and hopefully we will be close to being done with these fenders for good. This was a tough one. I mean, it just really drained me mentally, but we got it figured out and we invented something new. I'm calling it a fender spring. And basically what it's doing is putting tension on this fender so that it doesn't move and flex around, and it keeps this door gap even. Now this door gap doesn't look even because I haven't cut it yet. I wanna make sure this is gonna stay where it's at before I cut that 3/16 gap to match this on the door. All of these will get dress up washers. It's basically just a cup washer, but I like to order them because I like to use stainless steel stuff on all my hardware. I did not do that with my MR2 and it went bad. Basically everything rusted or faded in like a year. So we'll go to stainless dress washers on all of these bolts, so no worries for you guys that are into that kind of thing. We're doing it. It should look really good, but the hard part is over. And this is one of those things that I've just kind of been dreading the whole build, and so I'm just glad it's over. And it works. I mean, it works really well. Every time the door closes, the fender goes right back where it's supposed to. So I don't think that clearance is gonna be an issue with the tire. I'm not really sure about that. We're not gonna know until we drive this thing around for a few months, but for now I'm happy. I do have a lot of scratches and nicks from this whole process, which is kind of a bummer, but I know how to paint cars, so I guess we can fix it. We're out of time for this one. I wanted to get more done, but this is a massive thing to tick off the list of things to get done for this car for it to be roadworthy. Getting these doors working was a big one. Now, I just ordered $800 worth of interior stuff, and I'm doing the interior on a budget, but it's still costing a lot of money we're basically gonna have to make everything from scratch. So that's coming up soon. Like I said, we've got a few more performance things to do. I've got to install all my new non-performance, just maintenance parts like brakes. I've got a new kind of clutch system that we'll put in, and I'll show you guys how to do that. It's really easy if your clutch is real soft or weak. I'll show you how to fix that. And we will be on the road very, very soon. I'm waiting on front fenders, so I'm gonna text the guy that I ordered them from today actually and see if they're on their way. The front fenders are easy. You just bolt them on and they're done. So that should be good. And yeah, I mean, we're down to a very short list. I am so ready to drive this car. It's insane. I'm just ready for it to be on the road for good. The color looks awesome in the sunlight, especially on kind of this rainy, overcasty day. It's such a good color. I love it, and it's gonna look so cool with all the black accents everywhere. But I think that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're doing fender flares, I hope this helped you. You can make this little spring. It's 22 gauge metal that I used, And you can make one of these little springs for your back fenders, and it'll hold it in place. And it works really, really well. So I expect to see this design come up in future builds for sure. Whew. All right, man, I'm so glad this video is over. Love spending time with you guys. Love filming. Love that I get to build cars for a living, but man, I'm glad this one's over. See you next time.